Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Marvel's Dice Throne X-Men Edition. So this is the second group of characters from the Dice Throne series based on Marvel. We had the Avengers, or like Spider-Man, some adjacent characters there in the first series, and now we're doing 8 X-Men exclusive characters. So this is the big Ultimate box. They will be selling these in 2 packs as well. I'm assuming it's probably, I'm not sure exactly the order, how the 2 packs are going to be. I think it's Wolverine Storm, Psylocke Iceman, Gambit Rogue, and then Cyclops and Jean Grey. I believe that's how the 2 packs go, but I could be wrong on that. Or you buy the Ultimate Box, you can get all 8 characters at once. There's also an additional Deadpool box you can get separate if you want to get him by himself. But yeah, of course, if you're not familiar with what Dice Throne is, I do have other videos in the Marvel thing that kind of go over more of how the rules are played. But just as a quick, brief idea, it is a Yahtzee-ish dice rolling game. So if we kind of just do a quick glance in the rule book, uses the original Black Panther. Is each character is going to have a deck of cards that is unique. Half of it's unique to them. The other half is the same for every deck, like generic cards. And then what you do is throughout the game, you draw new cards, and then you get to play them. So you play the cards to help boost your dice rolls. But what you're doing is you're rolling a set of dice. Each character has their own set of dice. Their own hero sheet. They have their own tokens and abilities. But you're trying to roll for various different things. You get 3 of a kinds, high straights, large straights, small straights, various, just mixing and matching the symbols allow you to perform different abilities. And you're attempting to do is defeat your opponents. So there's generally supposed to be a 1-on-1 game. You can play teams 2 versus 2, or you could go a free-for-all, which is a little bit trickier, just so you don't gang up on people. There are also alternative modes you can play. Another video we'll be doing is Dice Throne's missions, which are brand new Marvel missions, which actually get to play as a cooperative mode. They all mix and match with the original Dice Throne, so all the Marvel mixes together if you want to just play Marvel. If you want to get the original Dice Throne, which has a bunch of unique, brand new characters, you can mix and match any of them. And they also have an adventure mode for that, which you get to like play through kind of like a dungeon crawler thing as a cooperative. Let's say, yeah, we'll go over kind of well over the other stuff in other video a little more, but each character has their own different tokens that do different things. They activate them. They have different abilities. So they'll play very different. But yeah, it's kind of a Yahtzee-ish dice rolling game, which is really cool. So we're just kind of grab one character here, just do a quick overview of what's in each box. So I'm going to move my camera back down a little bit here. So, for example, we have Wolverine. So each one comes in these nice little trays. And this is for current. I know in the future they're talking about doing different storage styles for some of these for just regular releases. But we get a big trifold board. I just have to zoom back out just a little bit more. Trifold board for each character. So like for Wolverine, it's gonna show what his basic skills are. So if he wants to use adamantium claws, he has to roll 3, 4, or 5 of the same dice for this to be able to do that much damage. But if he rolls 2 claws and 2 masks, he can do some healing. He does, these symbols and that. He gets those abilities. Just based on the different rolls you get. And like Yahtzee, I keep mentioning that because you get to roll 3 times. You roll once. Don't like your rolls, you can keep some dice, get rid of some roll simulations to try and get whatever symbol you can. And there's lots of times you might end up gambling on getting a certain symbol and you might not getting it. You might not even having an attack that turn. And that's for some of the cards you can purchase come into play because they let you change the dice roll. So that's we get a trifold board. They'll get a little sheet on here to show what symbols are on their dice. So on each one of Wolverine's 6-sided dice. And we'll look at a little bit more of these closer up as we go through. But he'll have 3 claws, 2 adamantium, and 1 mask. So for him to try and get his claw attacks, it's going to happen relatively easy. Him to get a bunch of masks is going to be a little bit harder. And he has 2 different special abilities, which tell you how they all work. Some are unique stats effects, some are positive, some are negative. They go on your opponent. And then what they do. On the back side, they also give a little bit of bio about the character, rule clarification, so be a little bit more in-depth on how that character works, the components they all come with, as well as their rarity, or their complexity. So they're ranked somewhere between 1 and 6, depending on how difficult they are. The other thing every character will get is a combat point. So this is your currency you spend to play cards. So you keep track of this by going up and down. And a health dial. The little health dial to keep track of, how alive they are, of course. Then you're also going to get a little standee. These are used for the mission mode, or if you're playing adventure, so you have a little standee. In the base game, if you're just playing 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2, the standees are not used. They just included them, so you didn't have to buy a separate pack if you wanted to play one of the missions that use them. And then they get your little set of tokens. These trays are really nice because they hold everything in here very, very nicely for each different thing. You get your 6 dice. And then you get your stack of cards. So we have the first bunch. We have some different colors which work for different timings. So the first half of the deck will be the same for every character. Then the second half are upgraded and some more specific cards for each individual character. And now each character's have a little bit different things. So like Wolverine has 2 tokens, Jean Grey has about 5 or 6, Gambit has some extra cards, some have round tokens, some have unique shaped tokens. So very cool. So that's just a brief glimpse into what's in each box. So we're going to go through and do a multi-part video. We'll probably do 4 characters per box. We'll do 4 and 4. And then we will also do some other videos which have some promo cards, extra materials, as well as the Dice Throne missions. So check out all of the Dice Throne stuff. So let's go ahead and hop into this. Alright, so before I hop into these specific characters, I want to look at the base cards that are the same for every character. So then when I go to the next character, I don't have to re-go through those cards. So we're going to have a turn order card. So each character should have one of these just to keep track of how you play through the game. So you have your upkeep phase, which you resolve effects, your income phase, which you gain points, draw cards, and then each different step lets you know what color cards you can play. So during the 2 main phases, you can play your blue cards. During the orange phase, you can play your orange cards, and then red cards are instants, which can be played at any time. And then during these times, you only get the offensive is when you start rolling your dice to determine what type of attacks you make. And on the back side, we just have timing, showing main phase, roll phase, instants, status effects, which can be happen whenever they need to apply, and then purple, which are passive effects, which not every character has. So each card is also going to have the numbers up here, so it's have 4 letters for what character it belongs to. Version 1, in case they update these at any point. So even though these are all the same for Wolverine, will be the same for Gambit, Rogue, even going all the way back into the original Dice Throne with the Barbarian, Night Elf, Moon Elf, and stuff like that. They're all going to have the exact same cards. So even Marvel and the other ones are all going to share the same ones. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So we have Transference. These are main action cards. These are things that are usually used to set you up for winning your next turn or before you roll your dice. So it's going to be 2 CPs, how many points it's going to cost to play it. And this says, transfer 1 status token effect from a chosen player to another chosen player. So this will let you take negative effects off of yourself and put them on somebody else, or steal somebody else's positive effect, which could help you win the game. What status effects? Remove all status effect tokens from a chosen player. Again, you can either remove all your negative or remove all your opponent's positive. The only thing you have to watch out for is, since it's remove all status effects, that if you have a negative and a positive, it's going to remove both of them. Vegas, baby. And we gotta watch these at cost free as well. Roll 1 dice, gain half the value of CP rounded up. So this lets you gain some extra points to spend cards. Get that out of here. Remove a status effect token from a chosen player. So this only lets you, then now you get to target a single one to get rid of. Then we have some instants here. So these can be cast whenever you need them to draw 3 cards. And this could then be used during your main phase. So if you want to grab some cards, so you're like, oh, okay, now I have this you'll prep for my roll phase, or maybe you want to play it after your roll phase. Like, hey, that roll didn't go well. I need to refill my hand to help prep for my opponent's turn, or even play it during your opponent's turn, so you can maybe bluff them because they don't know if you have another instant that can stop them. We have double up, lets you draw 2 cards. Bye-bye. Remove a status effect token from a chosen player. Tip it. Increase or decrease any die of the value by 1. The value of 1 cannot be decreased and 6 cannot be increased. And that's what I love about these cards, is they're beneficial both directions. So, like, you can either, hey, I really needed to roll another 6, because I needed that symbol. You can flip it to the 6 for that. Or I have a small straight, but I'm 1 away from a large straight. You could flip your dice up or down the direction to get that. So it can definitely help you out get the die roll you need, but you can also use it on your opponent. Hey, they rolled a really good attack. You could change one of their dice, so now that attack nullifies. And it might either reduce it to a lower attack, or it might nullify that attack completely. Or might have to make them spend an extra card or ability to re-roll that die. Getting paid lets you just gain 2 CP. Also, again, playing this on your opponent's turn. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, he has 0 things. I don't have to worry about him playing any cards. I'm saying you drop this, now they have to worry that you have something in your hand. Then we have some main phase. This is during the die rolling effects. So not this time. A chosen player prevents 6 incoming damage. So this can be helpful. Your opponent's rolling dice. You can use this to help prevent damage from hitting you. Twice as wild. Change the value of any 2 die. And this thing again, instead of just going up or down, you can change it to whatever you would like. Try again. You or a chosen teammate may reroll up to 2 dice. These can be the same dice twice in a row or 2 different dice. And they do mention teammates because there's cooperative modes, or if you're playing 2 versus 2 games. So wild. Change the value of any 1 die. Samesies. Change the value of one of your dice to be identical to the value of another one of your dice. One more time. A chosen player may perform an additional roll attempt up to 5 dice during the roll phase. So you normally only get to roll the dice 3 times. This lets you roll it a 4th time if you would need to. Helping Hand. Select one of your opponent's dice and force them to re-roll it. Better D. A chosen player may perform an additional roll attempt up to 5 dice during their defensive roll step. So this is only if you're trying to do a defensive roll. And then we have 6 it. Change one of the value of your dice to a 6. So some you can see cost a little bit more, cost a little bit less. Some of it has to depend on how quickly they can be activated, how much they affect. So like drawing 3 cards usually costs more than drawing 2, but drawing 3 cards during your main phase only might actually be cheaper than only drawing 2 cards during an instant because of how quickly you can do it. Same thing with changing die. Here you can only change a die to 6 is a little bit cheaper than being able to change it to anything, because changing to a 6 can definitely help you. Could even mess up your opponent. They were trying to go for the symbols that are all on 2s and 3s, and then you change one of their die to a 6, that can mess up their flow. Very interesting there. So cool. Alright, we'll look at the rest of the character cards after we look at the boards, because each one is going to be unique to that character. Alright, so let's hop into Elizabeth Bragrock, Psylocke. So this is, for comic fans, this is the Elizabeth Bragrock version as opposed to the Kawan version. But Psylocke is a difficulty level of 3. She's kind of in the middle. She has an extra die in here, which is actually pretty interesting. So she's got some cool components. She has 2 paralyze, 3 agility, 4 infiltration, as well as, show it on here. Yeah, she has a manifest die as well. So here's her manifested die. So she's going to get a special die. It's just going to be a different colored version of the one she normally has. So there's her manifest dye versus her regular dye. Her regular dye are a little bit more pink. Let's even look at the different sides there. So we're going to have blades on 1 and 2, size on 3 and 4, mind somewhere on here. We have 1 mind on 5, and then we have a starburst on 6. So she's got a little bit more complex dye. She's gonna have 2, 2, 1, and 1. So a little bit harder to get the 5 and 6s consistently. It says, this special die can be used to help you activate offensive abilities or to boost your attack. Counts as an attack modifier. Reference your passive ability manifest for additional instructions. The die cannot be altered in any way except by a card or ability that specifically mentions manifest die. However, when it's swapped with one of your other dice to activate an ability, this manifest die is now treated as one of your 5 normal dice. She has a paralyzed token. So it's a negative effect, goes on your opponents, prevents opponents from gaining or inflicting status effects. And if player afflicted with this token cannot gain or inflict any status effects associated with any of their offensive abilities. When a player with this token concludes their roll, remove it. So it only lasts for a turn, but the fact that you can shut them down from boosting or harming you for an extra turn can be very powerful. Agility. Positive status effect. Spend and roll 1 to 3 dice to avoid half damage. When a player with this token receives damage, they may spend it and roll 1 die. If the outcome is a 1 to 3, they prevent half the incoming damage. Preventing half damage is friggin' incredible. Because it goes after everything else. So if like they've got up to 10 damage, all of a sudden you can knock it down to 5, which is pretty crazy. And if you get 2 halves, and you somehow have 2 of these, and you spend both, and you prevent half, and you prevent another half, it doesn't reduce it from 5, or from 10 to 5, and then from 5 to a half. It takes that 10 damage and reduces it by 5, and then it looks at that other 10, again, reduces it by 5, so it reduces it down to 0. So it's pretty crazy how that works. Here's some of them tokens there. Even though they just show the pictures, it's kind of nice to see them. So little cardboard ones. And then the last one is infiltration. So infiltration says positive status effect. Alter a player's defense die. A player with this token may spend it and choose a die rolled by any player, including themselves, during their defensive roll attempt. The chosen die must be re-rolled. It's nice. You can slip through people's defenses or get your own. Cool. So let's take a look at her board. So her basic one, which we're going to get the lunge for her blade attacks. 5, 6, or 7 damage. So pretty basic. Divide. So 1 of each symbol there. Deal 3 undefendable damage. If you did not use a manifest die to activate this ability, gain 1 CP. So it's not a lot of damage, but undefendable is pretty nice. And you can potentially gain CP to buy other effects. Her manifest down here is a passive, so you can put the die hanging out in there. Roll the manifest die as part of your first roll attempt during your offensive roll phase, and then place it here. It can only be used to increase your attack damage by half of the roll value, or replace the dice during your offensive roll. Oh, so that's pretty cool. So you can basically spend it to up your damage. So she's going to do sometimes a little bit less damage, because you can up it. So even if you go like just 3 up here, so half of that's going to be 1.5 rounded up to 2. So she'll actually be doing 5 damage with that instead. Or you can use it to replace a die if you didn't get all them symbols. Parry, 2 blades, 2 size, and then a Starlight ability. Gain the agility token, deal 7 damage. For her other side, she has Stealth for her small trait. Gain infiltration, deal 6, or large trait, inflict paralysis and deal 8. Ooh, I like that, because it's 2 different effects. Because usually what it is just the small trait does this, and then the large trait does a little bit more. And this just gives you the option of which one you need to be doing. Blade Dance for 4 of the Starlights, which are the 6 guys. Gain the agility and infiltration, and then deal 6 undefendable damage. Paralyze, or Paralysis. 2 blades, and 2 mind. So notice that's only the second thing that uses mind on here. Inflict paralysis and deal 6 damage. And then her defense is clandestine. So roll 3 dice. Deal 1 undefendable damage per each blade. If you get a blade and a mind, draw a card. If you get a blade and a starlight, gain an agility token. So a defense ability that doesn't actually prevent any damage, but it's going to give her some extra, just ways to, like, because agility will help her, like, defend anyhow. She can roll her, get her token, she can reduce the damage by half. So having them agility are better than rolling dice for reducing 1 or 2 damage. Then her ultimate ability. I choose to stand between the world and those who threaten it. For a 6 starlight, so Yahtzee, Otherworlder, gaining agility, inflict paralysis, and deal 11 damage. So ability to dodge, stop them from doing stuff, and then dealing some extra cool damage to them. Awesome. So before we hop into her deck, here's her dial. Combat dial, very sneaky looking. And there's her health dial. And then, of course, we have her miniature. Standing on, it's like a sentinel head. And then she's going to have, same cards everyone else has. And then she's going to have her upgrades. Zoom in a little bit more here for this. She has Stealth 2. So her stealth ability goes up. And like I always compare, these are kind of nice. Gain 2 infiltration, deal 6 damage. Or large trait, gain paralysis and deal paralyze and deal 9 damage. So not too much different. Gains either 2 infiltration or she can do some extra damage. But like anything, like it's better than nothing, right? Which is always a good thing. So then she has Devise 2. Let me flip to that side. Alright, so there we have, for the 4 symbol, she can deal 4 undefendable damage, being not use manifest, gain, activate, not use manifest die, gain extra CP. But then she also gets strong shield, so now she gets 3 size. She can gain 2 infiltration and 2 agility. She doesn't deal damage, but that infiltration and agility can help her stay alive very much. And then she's gonna have Paralysis 2. So for the same dice, she inflicts paralysis and deals 7 damage, but she also gains the immobile ability. For 1 psi and 2 mind, gain agility, infiltration, and deal 4 damage. She's very helpful, because if you're trying to get this paralysis and you miss it because you don't get any blades for some odd reason, or instead of doing paralysis, you'd rather have infiltration and agility. Maybe you ran out of your agility tokens and you want to get another one. Blade Dance. We'll flip over to this side for that. So for the 4 Starlight, now you can instead gain 2 agility and 2 infiltration and deal 6 undefendable damage. But then she also gets Girded. So if you only roll 3 of them, now you can gain agility and deal 2 undefendable damage. I always like upgrading these ones if you can. Then you have to find them in your deck. Because yeah, it's like you're trying to go for your ultimate ability and you didn't roll 6 of them, you rolled 5. Cool, I can do Blade Dance, but I only rolled 3 of them. So now I can do that one instead. And her last upgrade is going to be for her defense for Clandestine level 2. Still rolls 3 dice, but now she does 2 unpreventable damage for each blade. Then draws a card or agility. She just does more damage. So, but again, if you're going to have to defend against attacks anyhow, why not potentially deal more damage back to your opponent? Alright, then her other signature cards are Shattered. Deal 2 damage as an isolated source of undefendable damage to an opponent that is afflicted with paralysis. Interesting. So, not as good unless you can get that paralyzed out, but nice is going to drop the extra damage on them. They might not be expecting it. Deft maneuver. Choose an opponent and examine their hand. Oh, so you can kind of see if they have something hiding against you. So you know if you want to perform a big attack, right? I'm gonna go for Yahtzee, but I know I don't want to like sit there and keep re-rolling it, and all of a sudden then they mess up my die roll because I have it, and then they can turn around and get rid of it, right? So you could kind of look at it ahead of time, like, oh, maybe I'll play a safer route for this turn. Construct. If you have not yet used your manifest die this turn, re-roll it. Ooh. So that way, if like you don't like what it's being used as, you're like, oh, I rolled a blade out of it, you know, a 1 or a 2, but you really needed a 6. So you might not use it for that reason. That's cool. Barrage. Attack modifier, roll 3 dice, add 2 damage for each blade. Strong Will, play only after being attacked. You may remove 1 agility token and prevent half of incoming damage rounded up. So why is that nice? Because normally the agility you have to roll a die and get 1 to 3, which is, 50-50 chance. But here it just lets you automatically do it. Mind Altering. If you use a manifest die to increase your attack, heal for the same amount. Well, a healing effect. She doesn't have any of those. Force. If an opponent afflicted with paralyzed would have gained a positive status effect as a result of activating an offensive ability, you gain it instead. Oh, nice. So what paralyzed does says it cannot gain or inflict any statuses, but here's saying if they have it and they would have gained one anyhow, because they'd still do the effect and it would try and trigger that ability. They just wouldn't gain any tokens. This will let you gain that. It's pretty cool. Then she does have 1 instant, which you would think as a ninja she would have had more instances. Which has backflip. Gain agility and roll a die. On a side, gain 1 CP. On a mind, draw a card. On a Starlight, gain an additional agility. Which would definitely be very helpful for keeping you alive as well. Just gain a straight up agility and then keep going. Alright, that's what we have for Psylocke. So let's go ahead and hop into our second character. Alright, let's take a look at Iceman, Bobby Drake. So Iceman is a complexity of 4, so he's actually going to be a little bit... It's interesting to think like he's kind of like the... Usually like portrayed as the young, goofy member, so it's interesting, he's a little bit more complex than everybody else. But it's because he has some neat stuff in here. So he is going to get a freezer card here. 11 ice shards, 4 dice cubes, 2 glides. So there's some extra interesting mechanics in here. You can kind of hold the rule clarification. If someone wants to pause and read that, you can. Alright, so what does he have in here? He has dice cubes, which are still tokens, even though they're cubes. Negative status effect. Lowest dice value cannot be re-rolled. A player afflicted with this token cannot alter the lowest value dice from their first roll attempt during their offensive roll phase. If that stack limit is effect to the 2 lowest dice rolled instead of 1. At the conclusion of the roll phase, remove these tokens. Oh, that's kind of nice. So if they're trying to roll for something high, they're going to be stuck with whatever their lowest dice roll are. Then he has some ice shards. Oops, I'm knocking tokens everywhere. So I have a bunch of these. I don't get these tokens out there. It's going to drive me nuts. Positive status effect. Boost abilities are spent to gain glide. You may spend 5 ice shards at any time to gain a glide. Otherwise, there's probably other effects he has that are going to use them. Then he has glide tokens, which he has special ice slides, basically. It's a special, unique looking token. Activate a second ability during your turn. If your offensive roll has a resulting ability that has a glide path, you may spend this token at the conclusion of your opponent's defensive roll phase. If they spent the following glide path to immediately activate an additional offensive ability targeting the same opponent, without needing to satisfy the roll objective. This token only spent once per turn. It cannot be removed or transferred by any means. Hero setup. Begin the game with the freezer card set up next to the board. Okay, so we'll look at that in a minute. He also has glide path. This arrow refers to the glide path, allows the glide token to be spent to activate a second ability marked by the other end of the arrow. Okay, cool. Then he has dice. Being he's a freezy character, he has kind of like translucency dice. So he's going to have 3 ice, little icicles hanging down, 2 slides, and then 1 frost on his 6. Alright, so let's take a look at what some of this stuff does. First of all, we have the freezer cards. Let's take a look at that even before we jump into the board. So the card says to store or take specified number of tokens from your leaflet and place them in front of this card. When the 5 ice shards to be stored here, you may immediately remove 5 of them to store 1 glide instead. Tokens stored here are not in play. They do not count towards your stack limit and cannot be interacted except as a result of cards or ability that reference the freezer. Oh, so interesting. So, like, most guys put their tokens on their board when they're holding them, if they have the effect. He instead just to put them in a freezer so people can't touch them. Just on the other side, then, we have a spot for their 5 ice shards and a glide token. Start up to 5 ice shards and 1 glide token on this card. And he has 11 ice shards and 2 glide. So you can actually have some extra ones in play. So that's kind of neat. Alright, let's take a look at his abilities and see what else he does. So we have Frostbite's our basic one, which is going to use our ice abilities. So 5, 6, or 7 damage. On 4 of a kind, store 1 ice shard in the freezer. And then transfer any token stored in the freezer to your hero board. Okay, so cool. So basically he can pull some of them off to the side or put them in there to kind of like generate them ahead of time. But then he has to pull them back out. So if they're in the freezer, he does not have access to them, but that also means opponents can't get rid of them. So he has Ice to meet you. So for 4 glide, gain an ice shard, inflict a dice cube, and then roll 5 dice. Deal 1 unpreventable damage. Unpreventable and undefendable damage for each ice you gain. Store 1 ice shard per each glide in the freezer. And then for each frost he gains, gain a glide or draw a card. Everybody chill. For an ice and 3 frost, gain an ice shard, deal 5 damage. Then choose one. Add 1 damage per ice shard, or gain 2 ice shards and draw a card. Nice. So if you want to spend some ice shards, you do some extra damage. Or gain more so you can try and get them ice glides quicker. He has Cold Treat. Get 2 ice and 3 glides, gain a CP, store 1 ice shard in the freezer, deal 7 damage. And if we flip to this side, we have Thoughtsome. Small straight, store 2 ice shards in the freezer, inflict dice cube, and deal 6 damage. All Hail the King for Snows, Frost, I keep trying to call them Snows. Gain 3 ice shards, inflict a dice cube, deal 5 undefendable damage, and additionally deal 2 collateral damage to all opponents. So that's not as helpful unless you're playing against a team. Horror Frost, for a large straight, store 3 ice shard tokens in the freezer, and then transfer any token stored in the freezer to your hero board, and deal 8 damage. And then Rim, roll 3 defense dice. On an ice, deal 1 damage, unpreventable damage. On a glide, prevent 2 damage. On a frost, deal 2 damage. On a 2 of a kind, store 1 ice shard in the freezer. Yeah, so I can see why it's going to be a little bit trickier, because he wants you to keep storing them tokens in the freezer, then you have to use one of the 2 abilities to pull them back out. But they are super powerful, because they're going to, for the most part, let you make glide tokens, which lets you use 2 abilities in a row. So they don't want you to have access to them too quick. So if we I'm going to see if I can zoom out my camera just a little bit more here. So then with that glide token, which is going to let us follow these glide paths. So we can do from all hail the king, to gaining our 3 ice shards, doing our stuff, to jumping over here to storing more ice shards. So if we are just gained 3 and we spent them all to gain that token, now next, then we can go ahead and we can use it to do this one. Or it can go from the large straight to the small straight, which is, again, pretty crazy. Lets you store a bunch in there and post on. You only store 5 at a time, so you can store 3 here, transfer all them over, and then you can always come back up in here if you use that glide already and store 2 more in there and have them prepped. Then if we look back at the other side, Frostbite jumps down to Everybody Chill goes to Cold Treat goes up into Ice Cream Cube. Ice Cream Cube does not go the other direction. But yeah, that's still some pretty crazy abilities to be able to combine if you save up enough stuff. Then Forest Ultimate. My powers might have limits, but I haven't found them yet. Ice Storm. For your 6 Frost, store 5 Ice Shards in the freezer, inflict 2 Dice Cubes, and then deal 13 damage. Nice. So you prevent some stuff, and then have them 5 Ice Shards ready to go. So then your next turn, you just need to find some way of bringing those out. But hopefully he has some cards that do that. So for his components, we have his combat dial, CP, we have his health dial, and then we have his little miniature standee. And for his cards, he'll gain a level of the same ones everybody else has. And then we'll have some cool upgrades. Haha, pun intended. Zoom back down a little bit. Cold Treat 2. So for Cold Treat, yeah, so very interesting. So this is gonna go to gain 1 CP, store 2 ice shards, and deal 8 damage. So a little bit extra. But it also has frosting added to it. So now for 2 ice and 2 glide, gain 2 ice shards and inflict 2 damage cubes. Now I noticed the arrow only points to Cold Treat, so if like it put this in here to upgrade, so at the top it's still gonna have the arrow going up, but it's gonna have the arrow going over. So you can only go from Everybody Chills to Cold Treats, not into frosting. And vice versa, you're gonna go from Cold Treats up. We have Thawsome 2. It's the same thing there, you can kind of jump into those. Small Straight, store 2 Ice Shard tokens in the freezer, inflict a Dice Cube, and deal 7 damage. So just a little bit of extra damage, nothing too crazy. For Horror Frost 2, we get store 3 ice shards in the freezer. They may transfer any number stored into the hero board and then deal 10 damage. This does some extra damage. But he also has Icy Come, Icy Go for 5 glides, which is going to be a little bit easier than 6 frost, or 5 frost, but still kind of hard. But you gain a glide straight up. Put 2 dice cubes, and deal 5 undefendable damage. So yeah, if you can get them glides, that's nice. It's a straight up way to get that. Everybody Chill. Level 2, so that goes 2 ice shards, deal 5 damage. Choose one, deal 1 damage per ice shard, or gain 2 ice shards and draw 1 card. So this does a little gain extra ice shard right off the bat, but it also gives you the Sub-Zero ability. For 2 icing, 2 frost, deal 5 undefendable damage. So yeah, if you're trying to roll for Everybody Chill and you just mess it up a little bit, you can always do Sub-Zero as well. Hail to the King. Gain 3 ice shards, inflict a dice cube, deal 7 undefendable damage, in additional 2 collateral to all opponents, and then you also gain snow cones if you don't get all of them. Frost, store 8 ice shards in the freezer. Oh, so you can store more than the 5. It just showed 5 on there, so I thought that's all you could store, but I guess you can store any emote in there. Which is definitely cool as well. I keep saying cool by accident. And Rhyme 2. So his defensive ability, he can roll an extra dice. So on Ice, deal 1 damage. On Glide, prevent 2. On Frost, deal 2 damage. On 2 of a kind, store 2 ice shards in the freezer. So just an extra guy, but you can potentially store some more ice shards. So those are his basic abilities, or upgrade abilities. Then his unique cards are, let me move this back over. Skiing is believing, roll 1 die, gain half the value as ice shards. Frozen cons, remove the ice shards from the freezer, then roll 1 die. On a ice, you put 2 dice cubes, kind of chose an opponent. Glide, gain 3 CP. On a Frost, draw 2 cards. Freeze the day, remove an ice shard to deal 3 damage to an opponent. Ice Cool. I'm not sure why they have these in this order. You may transfer any token stored on the freezer to your hero board. Gliding on thin ice. Roll 1 dice. On an ice, store 3 ice shards in a freezer. On a glide, store 4. On a frost, store 5. I only have ice for you. Add 1 damage per ice shard. Winter Punderland, gain a glide. And the last one is Ice Sight, gain 2 ice shards. Yeah, so Iceman's a very interesting character. I can see why it's complex, because yeah, it's kind of neat that you can bounce around and do multiple damages on do multiple abilities at the same time. But to do it lots of times, you have to put your ice shards into your freezer, and then you have to find ways to pull them back out. So it just adds that extra step you have to do. So even if you have all your tokens out, you have to find a way to be able to get access and to use them. So if you don't roll right, or you don't get the right card to let you pull them out, then you're basically, them ice shards just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. Alright, but that's what we have for this X-Men video. Come back and check out some more of the other characters. See you guys later. Bye.